I've been a longtime fan of the Looney Tunes, so if in 2011, Warner Bros. Was busy modernizing the Looney Tunes, I'd be there. But I was too busy not knowing it existed. But a few years ago, I stumbled across some clips, and just now I've gotten around to watching it. And they didn't make it easy, as it's not on any streaming services, and the second season wasn't even printed on DVD. But is the Looney Tunes show any good? I like it. And when Warner Bros. Was modernizing the classic Looney Tunes characters, what genre did they make it? A sitcom, aka the worst genre. When it comes to film and TV, I'm pretty much willing to try anything, except horror. Too scary. I just got over the bootleg Sleeping Beauty too. Sitcoms are genuinely pretty pointless. I've seen a bit of some, but without any overarching story, there's no real reason to continue watching it. That being said, this is a genuinely good show, if not really a sitcom, because it's missing the main element of being a sitcom, being boring. The general episode centers around Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck finding themselves in a comedic dilemma, so a sitcom. Bugs Bunny acts how I would expect and want him to. Daffy can be a little bit overboard on being a terrible human, so perfect. The episode also usually has one or two guest characters, like Porky Pig or Lola Bunny. And oh boy do we need to talk about Lola, because they did something crazy with her character. They gave her a personality. In this video, I'll be covering the first season, what I liked and didn't like about it, and why I think it's a great reimagining of the Looney Tunes. But first, a message from...
Want a break from the ads?
There is no sponsor, but there is that like button that you could click. Anyways, the episodes aired on Cartoon Network, so they needed to reach the 20-minute mark to meet the runtime. And because not all of the episodes have 20 minutes worth of content, this resulted in them adding bonus content, that's more like filler, at the halfway minute mark and at the end of the episode. These being the Merry Melodies and Wile E. Coyote shorts. First, the Merry Melodies. Songs featuring the Looney Tunes characters. I'm not Anthony Fantino, but most of these are just alright. They're more meant to be comedic than serious songs, which works for what it is. Instead of talking about the very first song, I want to skip ahead to Season 2 Episode 1 song, Laserbeam. Now the song itself is a pretty funny love song between Marvin and his beloved Laserbeam. But it's the Looney Tunes show fandom page of the song I want to look at. It's a comment from 2013, when the show was still, well, not dead, so I doubt the person even remembers they commented this. Let's see who commented this. Marvin!
This was so depressing, and they made me look like a wimpy nerdy boy. I am very angry now. I love my laser, but I'm not that attached. I must put a stop to this cruelty they are putting me through. It's wrong! And thanks to the Earthlings who've supported me on my page. Bring back the Duck Dodgers show.
Ah, you're cute.
Yeah, and they included your feet.
Anyways, I might not have seen the show when it originally aired, but I remember watching some 240p uploads of the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner shorts, and they were okay. Nowhere near as good as the classic shorts. I just ended up skipping them while watching the season.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Best Friends, the introduction episode to the Looney Tunes show. Bugs and Daffy go on a game show, so Daffy can try to become a millionaire. And as for the first episode of a show, it kinda just works well enough. I like how the show doesn't waste any time with exposition. The audience already knows who Bugs Bunny and Daffy are before watching the show, so there's no reason to introduce them. The pacing just felt a little bit off at times, with long breaks in between the jokes. I think they could have gotten away with just not doing this episode, and opening with the second episode instead. If it sounds like I hate the show, I don't. I like it. The contestants on the game show are Mac, hey that's me, and Tosh. And to be honest, I didn't even know Macintosh and Chip and Tail weren't the same characters. Now that I know these are separate characters, the main difference is Macintosh are annoying. Wait, quick, say something positive. Lola Bunny's dialogue is hilarious. Oh wait, she's not in this episode. I still like the episode, I just don't love it. The slapstick with Daffy giving himself brain damage is welcomed. One of the main complaints for the show when it was airing was the lack of slapstick. But personally, I think it has just enough slapstick to honor the classic Looney Tunes while still being its own thing. Something that I dislike that I didn't see many people talk about is the background characters being regular humans in a tune-filled world. The game show host is just some guy. He could have been some other toon like Porky or something, which is a reoccurring thing with the show. It does get better as the show goes on and introduces more toons though. It's like that new Bad Guys movie where all the main characters are anthropomorphic animals, but the background people are just regular old humans. There's a lot of toons that don't appear, at least in the first season, that could have been background characters. And please, don't spoil season 2 because I want to go in blind. So if Squidward makes a guest appearance and kills Daffy, don't tell me. I think it's a decent episode, if maybe not the best to open with. Not every joke lands, but they can't all be zingers. It's not back in action. The merry melody of this episode, Grilled Cheese, which is basically the only time Elmer appears outside of some small newscast roles. And I hate this song. This is not Elmer. This is some dude named Sheldon, who just looks like Elmer. It's so oddly suggestive and just creepy. Let's talk about the episode that really should have been the opening episode, as it makes the first episode look like a chump in comparison. Daffy joins a golf club by stealing another member's number, and his narcissistic personality fits right in with the other members. This is also the episode that introduces Lola Bunny, which surprisingly became my favorite character in the show. When I first started watching the clips on YouTube, they started off as a character I didn't like at all, but after watching the show, they quickly grew on me. My only prior knowledge of Lola was from Space Jam, and I much preferred this version of the character, because the Space Jam one sucks! Daffy and Bugs go to prison, and what I really like about this episode is that an entire year passes, yes, a full year, where Daffy and Bugs are stuck in prison, which is a reoccurring thing where the show will torture its characters because it's funny. A nice little episode, not much to say about this one. Yosemite is introduced as one of Bugs and Daffy's neighbors, which is something I haven't mentioned yet. Daffy and Bugs are roommates because Daffy's broke. Also, the show doesn't mention it much, but Speedy also lives with them inside of a mouse hole, which got me thinking, does Speedy pay taxes? Daffy is tasked with helping Gossamer with the school talent show, which is another character with significant changes, and I think it works pretty well, but Daffy can't help him with the talent show because he doesn't have a talent.
You can't go to the talent show! You don't have a talent!
A very simple yet confusing idea for an episode. Daffy goes to his high school reunion, and Bugs wants to tag along as he never went to high school. It's kinda weird that Daffy and some other toons, like the best toon of all time, Marvin, Porky, and one I didn't know prior, Pete Puma, went to high school. I like Pete. His personality is kinda just being a maroon. The episode also shows that Bugs Bunny is canonically Batman in this universe. And in the first episode, he made up a story about being Superman. But in older Looney Tunes shorts, it was heavily implied that Bugs was secretly Superman. So Bugs is canonically Superman and Batman? But that's just a theory. This episode is a bit of a weird one, because it takes everything that worked so well about the previous episodes, and just does the opposite. Instead of being 90% sitcom and 10% slapstick, it's the other way around. Daffy just spends the entire episode acting like a pervert, being in love with Starlet Johansson. There is something worth mentioning though. Through some cartoon logic, Daffy's turned into a baby, and Bugs gives baby Daffy to his trailer park uncle to raise. The show loves to torture its characters. Bugs finds Taz and adopts him as his dog. Daffy causes a mass panic after, well,
Killing machine!
but then, Daffy makes it up to Bugs by having a rare Daffy being a decent human moment.
Put this on him. Thanks, Doc. Don't mention it. I mean, I will, whenever it benefits me.
Foghorn Leghorn, big old rooster himself, wanting to make a movie about his life story, cast Daffy as the role. And from here, the episode gets progressively more violent until Yosemite Sam explodes and dies. Just an overall stellar episode. Not only do we get the return of Lola, but we also get a more in-depth look at Granny's secret past. Now Lola has unreciprocated love for Bugs, and is willing to pay $100,000 to go on a date with him. Where does she get the money? And Granny's secret past is that she fought in World War II against 1940s German soldiers. And Tweety is there with her? I thought this was some distant relative of Tweety, but no, Tweety is at least 80 years old, but most likely way older. Tweety is an eldritch god. The dynamic between Bugs and Daffy is flipped. Bugs became rich by inventing the carrot peeler, but Daffy has now stolen the concept from Bugs for the electric carrot peeler, resulting in Bugs going homeless. So now Daffy is the successful one of the two. When Daffy messes up and the entire population wants to sue him, Bugs makes a time machine and leaves Daffy there. Bugs goes back in time but leaves Daffy there to die. Oh no, she's here. Tina Russo, an original character for the show. They aren't in the first season all too much, but why do they have hair? Like Lola's hair is her ears, but this duck just has a regular old set of human hair. Genetic gene splicing? To bowl or not to bowl? I choose not to. We get a more in-depth look at the neighbors, and for some reason, Tweety and Sylvester don't get to come to the dinner party. They speak English, but are treated like animals. What is the difference between this bird and this bird? Oh yeah, this one is an eldritch god. The merry melody of this episode, We Are in Love, is the best one in the entire show hands down. Bugs might be getting a job, but Daffy gets a beak job, which results in this. Hide the children! Daffy babysits Tina's sister's baby and says,
I can take care of a baby. I used to be a baby. I think.
Yes, Daffy, you were turned into a baby a few episodes ago. The Merry Melody song for this episode is beyond creepy. It stars Pepe Le Pew. Remember when Pepe Le Pew was removed from Space Jam 2? This is why. Let me read you some of the lyrics. Lovey lovey, missy missy, come on baby, give me a kissy. I wasn't even upset when Pepe was sentenced to the Shadow Realm. The origin story of Speedy's Pizzeria restaurant. A good episode, and we get this fantastic line.
You're drunk with power!
This is when I went from, I like it, to I love it. The merry melody of this episode was probably half the entire show's budget. Lola drives like she's playing GTA, and Porky fails his car lessons twice. First time because Daffy steals his test. Daffy's a terrible person. Second time because Lola accidentally takes Porky's test. Bugs and Daffy both commit crimes. Daffy impersonates a police officer, and Bugs does drugs. Another episode taking place in the past, where we get to see Daffy become the CEO of Foghorn Leghorn's company, before inevitably bringing said company to bankruptcy.
Hamburger.
Bugs Bunny crushes Speedy's heart, but what we really need to talk about is Porky. In this episode, we start to see Porky descend into madness. His mask is slipping. He starts talking to himself in the mirror near the beginning of the episode, and by the end, he repeats this. Daffy cons Porky out of $375,000 by lying about needing a kidney transplant. Daffy is a terrible person. Porky gives him all of his money, and Daffy proceeds to buy a yacht. Daffy is a horrible person. Daffy then not only throws Porky into the water, but by the end of the episode, finds out he actually does need a kidney transplant and takes Porky's kidney. Daffy is a monster. Lola is the highlight of this episode. Other than that, it's kinda just alright for this far into the season. Daffy, after moving into Porky's house, is a terrible roommate and completely mistreats Porky. Porky doesn't know how much longer he can take this. Porky finally snaps. It's time for him to get his revenge. Daffy thinks the entire episode that Porky's trying to kill him. But in reality, he's just planning a surprise birthday party. Daffy does some absolutely terrible things during this time. Like throwing a steaming hot pot of tea on Porky's face, knocking him down the stairs, and hitting him with a car. John Pork found dead. The final episode of the season, and a bit of a weird one to end it on. Bugs and Daffy are both barely in this episode. The episode instead centers around Sylvester and Tweety, which although I like the idea of some episodes following different characters, maybe don't wait until the last episode to do so. But I really doubt this was meant to be the last episode of the show. They probably wanted this to be a long-running show like a Cartoon Network equivalent to SpongeBob. The episode has Sylvester visit his mother, and because of how annoying she is, gives up his human rights to become a house cat. Alright, that's the show. What did we learn? Marvin is the best character in all of fiction, Porky needs justice, and Space Jam 2 ruined Lola.